Hello, welcome or welcome back to the Yarn and Yarns YouTube channel. My name is Angela and all the places you can find me should be linked. Why am I stumbling over this? In the description box down below this video. Yeah, great start, Ange. Smooth. Here on the channel, you'll find me chatting about my adventures in knitting, spinning, crochet and weaving, all of the fibre related things. How are you today? I hope you are doing well. This is another video in my little series where I'm trying to explore, reorganise, destash, declutter my space and get my stash to one, a more manageable level, and two, a better reflection of where I am in my knitting journey right now. So I've posted a couple of videos about this already. I've had a little chat about why I'm doing this and my goals for my sort of little destash, my little reorganisation and my timescales. It's a long time scale. I'm trying to do this over the course of a couple of years because I've accumulated a lot of yarn and some of it's proving to be a bit more difficult to let go of. But I do want to reach my goals of the amount of sort of yarn that I have in my home. So yeah, I'm taking it slowly, but I'm working towards it. And I also popped up a fun little video quite recently about the yarns that I'd stashed from the Wonderwool festival, which is the biggest festival here in Wales where I live. And yeah, that was just a little fun video of me sort of calling myself out, sharing before I visited Wonderwool the skeins that I'd already previously stashed at Wonderwool and had not used. So those two sort of videos go side by side in this little series. So this is the third video, and back in the first video where I was chatting about my goals, I said in that video that it might be fun to try and set a few sort of fun little challenges around my stashing goals, and as a way to try and encourage me to reach that goal, to reach those goals and keep striving towards those goals. So I kind of put out the idea of maybe selecting some of the skeins from my stash that I didn't necessarily have a project in mind for, but I wasn't quite ready to let go of for one reason and another. I'm now going to put some constraints or some goals around some skeins in my stash. So I've got 9 quantities of yarn, not quite 9 skeins, but 9 quantities of yarn that will self-destruct in 1 year. So from the moment that I post this video, I'm going to put a little reminder in my diary for a year's time, and I will be revisiting that video in a year, and if I haven't used the skeins that I'm sharing with you today in the next 12 months, then I will be destashing them in one way or another. I should be letting them out into the world. Maybe I'll sell them on destash, maybe I will gift them, maybe I'll add them to the prize pot for future make-alongs that we have here on the channel. But one way or another, I will not be holding on to them in 12 months if I haven't used them. So I'm hoping this will be a bit of an encouragement for me to maybe reach into this basket. I'm going to keep them all in a little basket because they're all yarns that I really love, but they're just not yarns that I've got a particular project in mind for, and I'm trying not to hold on to those skeins that I don't have particular sort of projects in mind for. I think they'd be better off going out into the world and being used and loved by someone else. Does that make sense? Maybe. I don't know. I guess editing and will find out. Okay, so let's explore the yarns. Now, first up, I've actually got 3 yarns that you would have seen in my Wonderwool video, my little sort of exploration of my sort of previous purchases at Wonderwool. And I think it's because that video has got me sort of thinking about the yarns that I'd previously stashed from that festival and why hadn't I used them. So I've got 3 quantities of yarn here that have come from my purchases from Wonderwool that will be self-destructing in 1 year if I haven't used them. So first off, I have this beautiful skein of yarn from Bird Street Yarns. It's a Mr. B yarn, and in the process of flinging it around and waving it at the camera, I've managed to untangle the skein. So it's not looking at its best, but this is the skein that I have to share with you. It's the Fallen Hard colourway, and it's the Hiddleston 4-ply base, which is 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, 100 grams, 425 meters, and it's a beautiful grey base with lots of colour pops on it, and I really love this skein. I purchased it because I wanted to support the dyer, and this was the skein that was kind of calling to me, that jumped out to me the most on their stand when I visited. And I just haven't got around to finding a project for it. Of course, it would be perfect for socks maybe. cowl hat, you know, anything that you can knit with 4-ply. But just for one reason or another, it's been languishing my stash and I haven't got round to it. So this is the first skein that's going to go into my little basket, and if I haven't used it in a year, I'm going to be letting it go. The second is a twofer. So I've got 2 skeins of yarn from the lovely Merino skewer, which again I purchased at Wonderwool, and I had the thought of making some sort of colourwork project with these 2 skeins. They're double knit and they're British wool, I believe. I don't think, does it say? Yeah, it just says 100% British wool on the back. And the base is a heathered grey lamb's wool, and the colours are dyed by hand by Merino. And so I love this yarn. It's like from a small flock, dyed by a lovely small business owner, and no excuses for why I haven't knit with these yarns yet. And I just need to find a pattern, but I'm going to put them in my basket to encourage me to actually get round to finding that pattern and knitting them up. And if for any reason I haven't knit these in a year's time, they will self-destruct. My third quantity of yarn from the Wonderwool stash is again another twofer. I've got 2 skeins of this beautiful Wensleydale 4-ply yarn from River Knits, and orange and grey, it's one of my favourite colour combinations, and I just haven't been inspired or just haven't had the time to pick these up and cast them on. And they're just too beautiful to sit languishing in stash. So I'm hoping that by putting them on this list, it will encourage me to cast on with them in the not too distant future. And if I don't, then this will be a bit of a punishment, because this is probably the yarn that I would be most sad to let go of. But as a punishment, I will have to let these go if I haven't cast them on within the next 12 months. Next up, I've got just this little 50-gram skein of yarn, which I believe is a superwash merino nylon blend. And there used to be a yarn shop reasonably local to me in a town called Cowbridge. It's now sadly shut down, but when I first moved here to Wales, and we're talking like 6 years ago now, I had a car and I drove around and I visited some yarn shops in towns nearish to me. And in the yarn shop in Cowbridge, they had some skeins of yarn that were dyed by a localish indie dyer, the Old Piggery, and I picked up this one, and the colourway is Tropical Sea, and I wound it up because I was going to use it. I think maybe I did even use a little bit of it in another project, either the full or almost the full skein left. So this would be perfect for a pair of socks, and I'm thinking I might even knit this up into a pair of socks for James's mum, because she loves my knitted socks, and I've never actually knit her an indie dyed pair of socks before. 50 grams, she's got quite small feet, so 50 grams with contrast heels, toes and cuffs would be more than enough to knit up a pair of socks for mum, so we shall see. But that one is going into my basket of self-destructing yarns. And speaking of skeins of yarn that I might turn into projects for others, I have a skein of Regia Perfect in my stash, and I think I just purchased this at John Lewis at some point. I saw it and I'd not seen it anywhere else, and I just snagged it. It was very popular a couple of years ago, and the idea is it has these sort of contrasting strips, and if you start your knitting at this strip, you can knit a matching identical pair of socks. But this one has a mostly brown colour, and then it goes into some stripes at the top. So yeah, I purchased it and just have never got round to knitting with it. And I'm very curious. I've heard mixed reviews about this yarn since I picked it up, but I'm very curious to see how it's going to work up. And I think with the brown base and then a little bit of jazzy colour at the top, might be one that could become a perfect pair of socks for James's dad. So yeah, I'm going to put it in the basket, see if that happens, and if it doesn't, it will self-destruct in 12 months' time. 4 skeins of yarn left to share with you, and 2 are from one of my favourite indie dyers who sadly is no longer dyeing yarn, or at least has not been dyeing yarn recently that I could tell. And it was the lovely Helen of Yantan Tethery Yarns. And when I first found indie dyed yarns, Helen was by far and away my favourite dyer, and I've got quite a few skeins of yarn still in stash from Yantan Tetherer, and I've used quite a few skeins, but I've got these 2 that don't speak to me quite as much as the others, and I just have been holding on to them, not really sure what to do with them. And so I've decided to put them in my self-destruct basket, and if they don't get used in the next 12 months, I shall be letting them go. So I've got this first one, which is Cross the Purple Skies colourway, which is just a lovely sort of tonal really light sort of lilac-y purple colour. Not really a colour that I gravitate towards that often, which is probably why it sat in my stash for so long. And then I also have, and these are the same base, it's 75-25 Superwash Merino Nylon, and this is the Seville colourway, which is definitely more in my wheelhouse, as you can see. Oranges with some red, and I think the reason I've just never cast on with this, because although it's in my colours, I've moved away mostly from knitting with indie dyed yarns for socks for myself, and I just haven't found another project to incorporate this into. So yeah, maybe this might be quite a nice candidate for weaving something with. We'll see, we'll see. Ideas formulating as I'm chatting to you. So yeah, 2 skeins from the lovely Yantan Tethery yarns that will self-destruct in 12 months if I haven't used them. 2 skeins left, and the first one is a bit of a mystery. I believe I might have won this in a knit along or some sort of giveaway in the past, and my brain is telling me it's a mix of merino and tencel, but it doesn't have a label. If it did have a label, I've since lost it, and so I've never quite known what to make with this. Maybe it could be a good, I mean, if it's merino, it's probably going to be superwash merino. Maybe it would be a good candidate for one of my charity hats, perhaps. Now I'm thinking on it, maybe. But yeah, like I say, I have very little to say about this one because I don't really know what it is, but it's been sat in my stash for quite some time. I think possibly before we even moved here, and I've just never really quite known what to do with it. So if I don't use it in the next 12 months, it will self-destruct. Don't know why I said it like that. Can't take it back now. I could, but that involves a lot of editing. I'm not going to. And the final skein of yarn is another one that is tugging at my heartstrings because I really love it. It's dyed by my beautiful, amazing friend Jenny of Owl About Yarn, and it was a special for the Knit to Tea retreat, or one of the Knit to Tea retreats. And it's a BFL Boo base, which is 80% superwash Blueface Leicester and 20% bamboo, so it might be quite a nice one to try for some no nylon socks. And it's this beautiful sort of orangey peachy kind of colour, but again, like, I feel attached to it because I got it from the Knit Tea retreat, but I don't have a project for it. And so yeah, I'm just completely on the fence about whether I need to keep this in my stash, if that makes any sense. So it's going in the basket, and if I can't find something to do with it in the next 12 months, I shall let it go out into the world in one way or another. It's a beautiful yarn. I mean, all of these are beautiful yarns. There's absolutely nothing wrong with any of the yarns. They're just ones that, for some reason, I am finding it hard to let go of. But I really do need to use or lose. So there we go, 9 quantities of yarn, 11 skeins altogether of yarn that I'm putting into a little basket, and I'm going to keep that basket in my eye line and hope that inspiration strikes and that I am called to pick those up and work with them, because I really do want to work with them, but I'm just not sure for what projects, and therefore it's time to either decide what to use them for or to let them go. So that is it for this video. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you've got any pattern suggestions or project ideas for the yarns that I've shown off, please do share. If you've got skeins of yarn in your stash that maybe you've been thinking that you're not sure what to do with, let me know about that in the comments below as well. Perhaps we can crowdsource some pattern ideas for your languishing skeins too. And I guess I shall be checking back in a year's time to see how well I've gotten on with this little challenge. It seems like a long time to wait, but we know that time flies, so we shall see how much knitting I can get done and how much knitting with those I can get done in the next 12 months. Maybe I'll be inspired to use some of them for the 12 cast-ons in December and January. We shall see. We shall see. Lots of food for thought. Time for me to stop waffling. I should be back again soon here on the channel with some more content, so I hope you will join me for the next video. But until we do get to spend time together again, I hope you get to do some of the things that you enjoy. Great big woolly hugs to you all. Bye for now.